Hey everybody, what's going on? Jeremy from iMotivate Me. Welcome to another episode of my fitness and health investment initiative, that which is iMotivate Me. Today we're going to be focusing on a number of exercises that I like to use specifically with my cardiac patients, but also in general with clients who may be athletes, ranging from low functional ability or functional limitations. For example, joint injuries from the shoulders to the hips, things like that, to people who have recovered from cardiac issues and who may just want to become more active or stay active after their program, whether you're a patient or one of my clients. So with that being said, we're going to be using our body weight. We're going to be using our flat bands today. Normally, I will use the tube bands, as you can see on some of my videos. If you go back and watch some of my exercises that I did with past clients, I a lot of times would use body weight and I would use tube bands. And so now we're going to be using flat bands. These are exercises that even if you're an athlete, even if you find these very easy to do, you can always modify them to increase the intensity. But I also like to incorporate them into my regimen as well, because I like to do a lot of high intensity interval training or HIIT. I also like to use body weight and free weights to do powerlifting on occasion. I still like to focus on my muscular strength. We want to focus on our muscular strength and endurance, our cardiovascular endurance, our range of motion, and our joint strength, and all of those things that are involved in fitness, the health and skill related components of physical fitness we can work on with this, especially these exercises for some of us who are more active than average. These are good ways to kind of stay loose on your recovery days. So even on days when you're off, you still want to stay loose and you want to make sure you're stretching and making sure we're active, getting our steps in. A lot of us spend a lot of time on our computers and we might be sedentary on certain days. I never feel well when I'm sedentary all day. And so it's important for me to get out. As a matter of fact, after this, I will get out and go for a walk. Today is a recovery day for me personally, but we're going to do these exercises anyway just to stay loose and just to keep the blood flowing in our recovery. So with that being said, everyone enjoy the exercises. Please feel free to leave a comment, subscribe. And if you have any questions about employment of these types of exercises or the equipment, any suggestions you might have, please feel free to leave a question in the comments or just a comment with suggestions. So God bless everyone. Have a great exercise workout, and I'll see you out there. plenty of space to our left, our right, in front, and behind. And we're gonna do a curtsy. So we've already extended ourselves and we have gone ahead and loaded those muscles. And we wanna go ahead and overload them and put some really good resistance to those muscles in our hips, in our lower abdominal area, to focus on our balance, our range of motion, and our cardiovascular endurance and muscular strength. So what we'll do is take the left leg and we're going to go ahead and step back and around, just like so. And we call this a curtsy. So you're offsetting your body weight. And when you do that, you're forcing a lot of your balance muscles to interact with your brain. And so we're activating those muscles to ensure that you reduce your risk of falling and thus reducing your risk of injury. And these are something that young folks can do and old folks alike. It doesn't matter. These are just calisthenics to a lot of young folks. To folks who are older, you're gonna find that they're a little more challenging, and that's okay. I always like to have my handy dandy chair next to me so that when we do these exercises, we can modify them to ensure that we reduce our risk of falling even when we're exercising on our own and doing these things. We always want to make sure that we're staying active. It's very healthy and very important that we do so. We also want to make sure that we have a good diet. Let's go ahead and switch sides. Now we'll go with the opposite side. Now, with that front foot, what I like folks to do is keep that weight on your heel. That way we're protecting our knee. All of our muscles, they're gonna interact a certain way with our musculoskeletal system. And we wanna make sure that we protect our joints, but at the same time that we activate all those muscles, especially on that front leg that's not moving. Those are going to be our balance muscles and our strength. So our quadriceps and the hamstrings in the back, whenever we come back up with our body weight, we want to try to put as much weight on that front leg as possible. All right, so we'll go ahead and stop there. What we want to always make sure that we do is have water with you. You always want to hydrate, and so we'll go ahead and take a quick breather and come back with our next exercise example. All right, so a variation of the curtsy for those who are able to do higher intensity exercises. What we want to do is take that left leg just like we did a normal curtsy. Now what we'll do is take that right arm and left leg. So right arm up in the air, and then we're going to move that left leg back like a curtsy. And we bring that leg up and touch the right arm with the left knee. Just like so. And then we go and reset. Now, when we're doing this, I want you to make sure you're breathing out when you bring those two together, and breathing back into reset and then back out. And then you can speed up and do a higher intensity exercise. Now, it is, if you notice, I kind of knocked myself off track a little bit. It's a difficult exercise to maintain your balance with. So if you are capable of doing this exercise, then you can increase the intensity and modify it to be more challenging, this is a more challenging and intense version. Okay, so we can touch our elbow, we can touch our forearm, or we can just touch our hand to the knee, just like so. And then we can switch sides. So we'll do a few on the opposite side. We're just gonna breathe in and breathe out. Notice my posture stays upright, my breathing stays good. Now we're gonna touch that elbow to the knee. And when you do that, you'll notice that you're gonna have a lot more tension or muscle activation in the opposite leg. that's what we want to do. So even though we're moving the right leg, the left leg is actually doing a lot of the balance work, which is what we want to focus on. Notice I'm bringing that foot, notice it's here. It's not straight back, it's here, okay? And then we're coming right back up. Now again, this is a more intense portion of the exercise. You can always use the chair to make sure you have your chair right next to you for balance, but you can also make sure that you set it aside so that you have plenty of space in front of you, to your left and right, and behind you. That way, for safety purposes, if you feel like you have balance issues that day, sometimes we're off on days. It doesn't matter. We're not always able to do what we normally want to set out to do in the gym or when we're doing exercises. So we can make sure we have our chair and plenty of space around us to ensure our safety and reduce our risks of falls. All right, so we've conducted some upper body weight exercises, meaning we've been using primarily our body weight. Now, of course, we're adding weight with our dumbbells. So we're going to continue to use dumbbells on and off, and we'll eventually get to our flat resistance bands to assist in the increase in intensity of our exercises. So we did our curtsies, we did a moderation of curtsies as well to assist with our focus on balance. Now with balance, we do want to make sure we focus, and that's a part of your mind. We want to make sure, even if you're tired, even if you're sweating a little bit, no matter what, if you're breathing a little harder than you normally would, you still want to focus on your breathing. You want to focus on your posture, staying upright, and you want to focus on your balance and all of those muscles that are incorporated right here. I always like to smack those areas because all of these areas are going to be very important to your core and your foundational principles of physical fitness. Your health and skill related components are going to depend a lot on your core strength, a lot on your balance muscles, which those are parts of, according to the American College of Sports Medicine, they are a part of your skill and health related components. And so we want to go ahead and work with those. So what we're going to go ahead and go do next, we want to make sure that we look to our left and right and make sure we have plenty of space. And we want to make sure we have plenty of space to the sides, but also in the front and the back, even though all we're going to do is a lateral movement. So what I want you to do is make sure we keep those elbows tucked in, and we're going to make sure that those dumbbells are here to our chests. And what we're going to do is step to the left and move that dumbbell to the left with the left hand. Now notice I keep that posture upright. So we're extending the hand. We're going to transfer weight from the midline of our body, which is here, and we're going to transfer it out. And we're just going to lunge to the side. Now the farther you can lunge, some folks can really lunge out there. If you're able to do that, that's great. That's a higher intensity exercise, or version of the exercise rather. But if you can only step out a little bit, that's okay too. And we'll do a modified version of this as well. So what we can do is we can set the dumbbells down and we can just use our body weight. Same thing. But what I want to see is more snap. So we want to make sure we snap while keeping our posture upright. And we're just going to extend that arm out. Remember, women tend to have more rotator cuff injuries, and so we really want to make sure we do these exercises appropriately. So when you do this exercise, I want you to make sure that you switch the hand rotation in and out. So we're actually working the rotator cuff. Now notice you probably have gotten a little fatigued in the shoulders. We can always switch sides. So if you have your dumbbell, you can use your dumbbell. For instructional purposes, we'll just go ahead and use our body weight. And we can change our range of our arm. So one time, one extension, we can go in and we can go out and we can go in between. We can change it up. That's what we want to do. We do want to use our dumbbells, but we also can do this exercise with the resistance band, which is what we're going to go ahead and do now. Now I'm going to use the light band just for the sake of my stamina here. So what we can do is put the band, let's say in the right hand, put the band under the left foot. We want to make sure we keep tension on that band, keep that posture upright, and all we're going to do is step to the side. So the same thing. Now the difference between the dumbbell and the band is that the dumbbell maintains its resistance for its entirety. So if it's in your hand and you're extending, it's going to weigh the same. Now the moment arm increases, which does increase the resistance to a certain extent. And actually, that's a good question. I might have to look that up and research it, or ask somebody who might know better than myself, like a kinesiologist. But the resistance band increases when the length of the band increases, the resistance increases, and therefore it gets harder. And we're going to breathe out when we move out. We're going to keep that posture upright, and we're going to maintain a good posture. And then we can switch sides from there. So we can move. Now that band is going to stick. This is where we transition from our dumbbells and body weight into the flat bands. And we can switch arms and put the band under the left foot. Now when you do these exercises, what we want to make sure we do is we're actually putting the band under our toes. There are times when that band will slide out from under your foot, and you might get a band in your face or something. I hope that's not the case, but they can happen. And we want to avoid that. And so we want to make sure we're always in control of our equipment. Posture upright. Now we're working the deltoid muscles. We're working the postural muscles. I can feel them. Now this is my light band. I usually use the heavy band, but just for instructional purposes, I'll use the light band. So you can use any band that you like, whichever's comfortable for you. But remember, you do also want to challenge yourself and make sure that you're breathing a little harder. You want to feel your heart rate. If you have equipment to help monitor your blood pressure and heart rate, I highly recommend it. And we will go over the rate of perceived exertion afterwards once we finish our classes with these exercises. So we've transitioned into our resistance bands, our flat bands, and what we want to go ahead and do from here is introduce a good exercise, especially for balance, for range of motion in your hips, but also for cardiovascular stamina and endurance. And so what I like to do is tell a quick story about this exercise. I'm actually I don't like to be prideful, but at the same time, there was a person who likes to play volleyball, and so she asked me about some exercises that she could do to improve her stamina and muscular strength and endurance on the volleyball court, sand volleyball, beach volleyball. And so what we want to do is I like the dig, for example. So what volleyball players like to do is they'll bump a volleyball. And so what I created was just an exercise where you put the band under the right foot, just like so. Make sure there's equal amount of tension on both sides of the band. And what we do is we step forward and then we step diagonally. So we want to make sure that there are plenty of spaces around us, all right? We want to make sure we have plenty of space. So front, diagonal, and to the side. And what we're going to do is maintain our balance, and we're just going to bump. Now, when we bump, what do I mean by that? We're going to step forward, keeping your posture and back upright. Notice my back is not here. We want it right here. We want to come down, and we're just going to bump and then come back up and then go 45-degree angle. And then we can go to the side as well. And we want to make sure we twist that torso. I can feel the torso muscles here, the transverse abdominal area, as well as the back muscles in the thoracic and lumbar region of the spine, the middle and lower back area, okay? And so you'll feel those when you move, and you want to kind of step forward. If you're an athlete and you're able to really get to it and snap to, fine. If you're not, I want a nice, methodical, slow movement, but we're gonna make sure we keep tension on that band and extend that band the way we need to. And then we'll wanna go ahead and switch sides. So we would switch legs and we would do it the opposite way. So we'll step forward, step there, step to the side, step back forward, diagonal to the side. Or you can do it nice and slowly. You can use a heavy band, light band, or medium band, whichever you choose. Or you can even do dumbbells, or you can do soup cans. You can do anything that you want. But we want to use all of those. And so what you can do is go forward, let's say with your light dumbbells, to the side, just like so, forward, diagonal, and to the side. So you're gonna go right straight, and then you will go at a 45-degree angle and then a 90-degree angle. And that is a good segue into a really good exercise that I like to do personally, are clock lunges. And that's where you have plenty of space around you in front, or you have to have it all the way around you. And what you do is you take that left leg, step forward, step to the side, step back, and then switch legs and step back, and then step to the side and step forward. So all you're doing is going in a clock circle, okay? And then you repeat. So you can do these things and you're repeating yourself, and that's what you want to do. This becomes regimented, and you keep your heart rate up, you keep your blood pressure regulated through breathing. You always want to make sure you focus on your breathing, and then we continue that. So you can go either direction. You can do 4 in one direction and then 4 in another direction, and that's fine. But you want to make sure that you activate all of those balanced muscles. That's what we want to do. And when you do so, notice when I'm stepping forward, or I'm stepping to the side, or I'm stepping back and switching, notice my posture's upright. Always. All right, now if I cheat sometimes, you can let me know. That's quite all right. Sometimes we cheat unintentionally. That's where you have to make sure you focus on your posture for your safety, but also for the most high effectiveness of the exercise that you want to conduct. You want it to be highly effective for you. You don't want to waste your time, okay? So we'll do those, and you can do 4 sets one way. 4 rotations, and then 4 rotations. And you could do 2 to 3 sets of those, but for now we're not worried about repetitions and sets and the philosophy of those. We can get to those certainly, and in another series. All right, so the next exercise that we're going to do, there are 2 exercises. We're going to be doing the chest press from the seated position. Now this is a really great exercise because it's a modification from the push-up. Now the push-up, for example, is going to look something like this. You're just going to do push-ups from the horizontal position. Now, a lot of folks aren't able to do that. That is quite all right. So we have a modification for that. We can change it up and we can still work. So what we're going to be working with are our pectoralis muscles, all the major and minor groups. We're going to be working on our biceps. We're going to work the triceps especially, because we're going to be extending that arm. And I'll show you in a second what I mean by that, because we're also going to be doing a shoulder press. So we're going to do a chest press and a shoulder press from the seated position. And so we'll be working together. What we want to do, one thing I always like to do with my patients is see how they reach back with that band. So we want to reach back and make sure we have range of motion with those shoulders. If we have issues with the shoulders, most likely we've had rotator cuff issues and things like that, we can always modify, we could always bring the band around in a different manner. I like to work just like so, nice and easy, back and forth. And so what I do is I choke up on that band. I'm going to slide up here so everyone can see just a little better. And what we'll do is we'll choke up on that band. That way, we always want to start with tension on that band, just like this. And so we're going to keep our posture straight and upright, and we're going to push forward. Now remember, this is the heavy band. You can use the light band, you can use the medium band, whichever you prefer. You can buy those bands at Walmart, TJ Maxx. I'm not trying to provide them any corporation, any advertisement, but you can find them cheap anywhere. I prefer Walmart. You can usually find them for in between $12 and $15, and they're a good deal. They're high quality bands. They actually work really well. You can go to a gym if you'd like, if you have a gym where you're at. But what we're going to do is we're just going to move our arms forward. Now notice when we move our arms forward, we're actually working the tricep muscles. So we're extending the triceps. So we have these contractions in our muscles, and that's what we want to do. Also in our pecs and our chest muscles, that's very important because those muscles actually assist you with breathing. A lot of muscles assist you with breathing, but those certainly are some of them. And if you activate them and connect your brain with those muscles, perhaps you'll find that you'll breathe a little easier. Maybe you'll sleep better at night. You won't have as many breathing issues in your sleep. We've seen a lot of cases where folks suffer from sleep apnea, and I wonder what that's all about. And I think that if we could just activate those muscle groups, we'd be fine, or better off. So what we want to do is take those bands, and we're just going to raise our arms up. Now this is going from the chest press to the shoulder press. Now we're doing our shoulders. So you're going to feel some fatigue in those shoulders, but what we want to do is keep that posture upright. I want you to breathe out when you push up. Just like when you push forward, I want you to breathe out too. I didn't mention the breathing. I should be focusing more on the breathing, so I apologize about that. But we're going to be pushing up and breathing out. Now, the flat band is really good because as long as you can keep that band flat on your back, it's not going to slide up too much. So I didn't do a good job of that either. But we're going to breathe out, and we're just going to raise up. Now, we can do multiple sets of this. I recommend doing in between 30 and 45 seconds, however long you can do, but I want you to keep your posture upright, your feet shoulder width apart, and I want you to focus on those muscles that we're actually working. We're going to be working the trapezius, we're going to be working our deltoid muscles, we're going to be working our triceps, and there are many other muscles that we'll be working, and we want to make sure we're also using our breathing muscles as well. Okay, so we can do an exercise like that. That is the seated position for the chest press and the shoulder press with the heavy band or whichever band you prefer. Alright, so one of my favorite exercises that I like to perform has to do with our lower body strength, but also balance and making sure that we keep our feet shoulder width apart and use breathing technique as well as our postural strength intact. We want to make sure that we keep the integrity of that posture upright, and we want to use what I like to call the squat and ski. And so what we want to do is pretend like we're skiing and we want to squat. Now, when I do this exercise, what I like to do is make sure, as you can see, my Joe Willie Namath white shoes, we want to make sure we keep our feet up, shoulder width apart. We want to make sure we keep our weight on our heels for this one. Now, a lot of times I'll do exercises when I work out in the gym, and I'll do some boxing techniques and fighting techniques and things. I'll be on the balls of my feet. We don't want to worry about that right now. We want to stick to the basics because we're trying to maintain the integrity of your knees, your hips, your shoulders, and our posture and our balance. And so what we want to do is keep our feet shoulder width apart. It'll look like this from the side. And what we'll go ahead and do is squat, keeping your weight on your heels. That way your knees don't go past the tips of your toes. And we want to keep your back upright. And then we're just going to come up. Now we can do this in a slow motion, and we'll do a variation of this as well. So I'll modify the exercise to a higher intensity so that we can, for the people who are able to do, let's say, jumping movements such as this, where we do move to the balls of our feet and then back down to our heels. And so we're transferring our weight from our heels to the balls of our feet, so we can do a variation of this exercise in that way. So I'll do it from a 45-degree angle for you. Again, we're going to keep our feet shoulder width apart, and we're just going to breathe out as we stand and keeping the weight on our heels, and then breathing back in to reset, just like we're skiing uphill, which is a difficult task. Now, I'm not a big skier, but for those who are, you understand if you're skiing uphill, you're going to be moving, and so it's kind of a motion just like this. Now, we can increase the frequency to increase the intensity as well, but we always want to make sure that we keep that balance and we stay focused on our breathing when we do this exercise. Now, when you do this exercise, it's very important to understand you're going to be squeezing those muscles in the rear and the muscles in the front. And so what you're going to be doing is coming up, squeezing these muscles here, squeezing the muscles in the front. And what that does is it actually activates a lot of those muscles in your thoracic rib cage area that's responsible for your breathing. This is something that I teach a lot of my patients and clients. And also your quadriceps, your hamstring muscles, and a lot of the muscles down below that are responsible for your balance as well. So all we're doing is connecting your brain with all of these muscles. That's all we want to do with this exercise. So it's not about, it's not necessarily about gaining strength. This is more of an exercise that is meant for warm-ups. Now, what we can do is if you're good to go with higher intensity, then we can jump up and do exercises like so. I like to do a lot of things where I bring my arms forward and down as I jump. So we can do higher intensity exercises like that. Do those for about 30 seconds and see how you feel. You'll make sure that you gauge how you're feeling with your heart and how you're breathing. And of course, we want to make sure we hydrate in between all of our exercises, especially if we're doing things that are higher intensity. One of my favorite exercises to do to finish it off is to make sure I have plenty of space to my left and to my right, and then I put the band under both feet and I cross the band just like so. So we cross the band in our hands, and what we're going to do is we're going to take 4 steps to the left and then 4 steps back to the right, and we're going to go back and forth. Now, my feet are always shoulder width apart at least. I'm overloading those hip muscles. That's what we want to do. So we work them on the floor. You could also do it in other ways. It's a combination that you have to change up. It should never be the same. We should always be changing up what we're doing, or it can be the same for a certain period of time, but then you have to change it up and ensure that the different vectors of the muscles are activating the way they're supposed to, and we're more holistic and well-rounded in our exercises. Now from here, we'll finish this one off. This will be the last one, I promise. All we're gonna do is bring those shoulders up. So we're gonna do a shoulder fly. So we're gonna keep those feet shoulder width apart, and we're just gonna pull the band up. Now again, I'm using a heavy band. You can switch bands at any point, but we wanna make sure we're getting a good workout. And if at any point you ever feel like you need a break and you need to take a drink of water and you're breathing hard, do so. That's no problem. That just means you're exercising really well. And notice I'm bringing my elbows out. So we're doing a nice shoulder fly. So we're working the deltoids, we're working the trapezius. That's what I like to do, especially with the heavy band. Now, I like to keep my posture upright. I like to keep my balance. Feet shoulder width apart again. Back straight. Good physique that we're working on, and we're just going to breathe out as we come up with that band and breathe back into reset. And so I feel a lot of fatigue with the shoulder muscles, and so that's what we really want to do. I feel it also in my thoracic rib cage area and my abdominals as well. You have to make sure you maintain your composure and your posture during these exercises.